All right, let's get started. This quiz is open. Question number 1 for 10 points. Question. The wicked in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 23.
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
Shall do what? He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray.
That is incorrect. This interrupted question will be reread to Spokane without interruption. Question. The wicked in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 23 shall do what?
Red 2.
He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray.
That is correct. Question number 2 for 10 points is a two-part question. Question. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 4 states,
Red 2.
Interruption.
So shalt thou find what where? So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man.
That is incorrect. This interrupted two-part question will be read to Rialto without interruption. Question. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 4 states, so shalt thou find what in the sight of whom?
Yellow 2.
Favor and good understanding of God and man.
That is correct. Question number 3 for 10 points is a two-part question. Question. In which verse of Proverbs chapter 8 did wisdom say, I will...
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
I will
That is incorrect. This interrupted two-part question will be reread to Spokane without interruption. Question. In which verse of Proverbs chapter 8 did wisdom say, I was set up when?
Red 2.
Proverbs chapter 8, verse 23, I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning wherever the earth was.
That is correct. Question number 4 for 10 points is a quotation completion question. Question. The hand.
Yellow 2.
Interruption.
The hand of the diligent shall bear a roll, but the slothful shall be under tribute.
That is correct. Question number 5 for 10 points. Question. The way of life is described.
Red 1.
Interruption.
Is described how, as recorded in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 24. The way of life is spoke to the wise, that he may depart from help and ease.
That is correct. For 10 points is a two-part question. Question. How many family relations are spoken of in Proverbs?
Red 2.
Interruption.
In Proverbs chapter 7, verse 4, what are they? Sister, kinswoman, there are two.
That is incorrect. This interrupted two-part question will be read to Rialto without interruption. Question. How many family relations are spoken of in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 1, and what are they?
Yellow 2.
Son, father, mother, and there are three.
That is correct. Question number 7 for 10 points is a quotation question. Question. Quote the verse of Proverbs chapter 20, which speaks of obscure
Red 1.
interruption.
Obscure darkness. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness.
That is correct. Question number 8 for 10 points. Question. What 3 abominations are men?
Red 2.
Interruption.
are mentioned in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 17. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood.
That is correct. Question number 9 for 20 points is a three-part question. Question: which verse of Proverbs chapter 3 instructs to be not afraid of how?
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
Be not afraid of how many things, and what are they? Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh. Proverbs 3, verse 25, and there are two.
That is correct. Question number 10 for 20 points is a three-part question. Question: which verse of Proverbs chapter 1 asks how many questions?
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
Asks how many questions, and what are they? Proverbs 1:22. How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. And there are two.
That is correct. The timeout. Spokane, 60 seconds. 1 Kings.
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
Of 1 Kings chapter 3. And if thou wilt walk in my ways, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I will lengthen thy days.
Time.
Question number 12 for 20 points is a cross-reference two-part question. Question: how many verses of Proverbs chapter 8 begin with the instruction to hear?
Red 1.
Interruption.
And what are these verses? Proverbs chapter 8, verse 6. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 33. And there are two.
That is correct. Question number 13 for 20 points. Question: Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20 makes what competitive?
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
Makes what comparison? Between the wise and the foolish. There is treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up.
That is correct.
Contest.
Who contests? Spokane, 60 seconds. Is denied. Question number 14 for 20 points is a four-part question. Question: Proverbs chapter 21, verse 21 states that he...
Red 1.
Interruption.
He that followeth after how many things and what are they? Findeth how many things and what are they? 2. Righteousness and mercy. 3. Life, righteousness, and honor.
That is correct. Question number 15 for 20 points. Question: how is a faithful messenger deep?
Red 1.
Interruption.
Described in Proverbs chapter 25, verse 13. As the cold of snow in the time of harvest, so is a faithful messenger to them that send him, for he refresheth the soul of his masters.
That is correct. Question number 16 for 20 points is a cross-reference three-part question. Question: according to 1 Kings, locate the verse which speaks of the covenant of the Lord. Locate the verse that speaks of the name of the Lord.
Yellow 1.
Interruption.
And locate the verse. Which speaks of
That is incorrect. This interrupted cross-reference three-part question will be read to Spokane without interruption. Question. According to 1 Kings, locate the verse which speaks of the covenant of the Lord, locate the verse that speaks of the name of the Lord, and locate the verse which speaks of the house of the Lord.
Red 2.
1 Kings chapter 3, verse 15. 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 1. 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 5.
That is correct. Time out. Rialto, 60 seconds. Time is in, and question number 17 for 20 points is a two-part question. Question. Which verse of study states that who shall not be heard?
Red 1.
Interruption.
Who shall not be heard? Proverbs chapter 21, verse 13. Whoso stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor, he also shall not cry himself, but shall not be heard.
With a 5-point foul on yellow 1. This is an improper response, and it'll be reread to red 1 to the point of interruption. It's a two-part question. You don't have to hit the buzzer. Your time will start when I stop reading. It's a two-part question for 20 points. Question. Which verse of study states that who shall... Let's try this again. It's a two-part question for 20 points. Question. Which verse of study states that who shall not be
Heard. He that stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 13.
That is correct. Question number 18 for 30 points is a three-part question. Question. According to Proverbs chapter 21, verses 1, 2, and 3, what is said concerning the Lord in verse 1?
Red 1.
Interruption.
In verse 1, what is said concerning the Lord in verse 2, and what is said concerning the Lord in verse 3. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. Every way of a man is clean in his own eyes, but the Lord trieth the hearts. To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice.
Time.
That is incorrect. This interrupted three-part question will be reread to Rialto without interruption. Question. According to Proverbs chapter 21, verses 1, 2, and 3, what is said concerning the Lord in verse 1, what is said concerning the Lord in verse 2, and what is said concerning the Lord in verse 3?
Yellow 2.
The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice.
That is correct. Question number 19 for 30 points is a cross-reference quotation question. Question. Two consecutive verses of study contain the phrase man of under...
Red 1.
Interruption.
Man of understanding. Quote these verses.
That is incorrect. This interrupted cross-reference quotation question will be reread to Rialto without interruption. Question. Two consecutive verses of study contain the phrase man of understanding. Quote these verses.
Yellow 1.
He that hath knowledge spareth his words, And a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding.
That is correct. With the timeout, Spokane, 60 seconds. Time is in. Question number 20 for 30 points is a cross-reference four-part question. Question. Locate the verse which speaks of handling a matter. Locate the verse which speaks of repeating a matter. Locate the verse which speaks of answering a matter. And locate the verse which speaks of searching out a matter.
Red 1.
Proverbs chapter 16, verse 20. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 28. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 2 for searching out a matter. And Proverbs chapter
Time.
That is incorrect. We do have a winner. This quiz is closed. Let's give both these teams a hand.